Daddy, do your Mickey Mouse noise.
Oh, my baby, I don't think it's a good idea. I mean, we're just starting out on this podcast. It'd be super annoying. Mark would absolutely hate it. I mean, do you really want to hear my Mickey Mouse impression?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Why? Why would you want to subject the listeners to such...
Because, Mickey just funny.
Well, it's not like the film we're discussing today deserves any real respect. Okay, here goes.
Oh boy! This episode really breaks the mold! How can our beloved hosts suggest ways a film could have been better when it's total dog shit from start to finish? Only one way to find out! Gee golly gosh! On another amazing episode of Written Off!
Welcome to Written Off. I'm your host, Bradley Freeman. How is everyone today? How's that thing at work? You know, that thing at work that you should have got done, but you haven't got done, and you keep on blaming other people for it. But listen. I know about procrastination, okay? I am a Kiwi. Look, just get that thing done, and you'll feel so much better. But you know who gets things done? It's my co-host. How you doing, Mark?
Very good. I've been watching a few interesting films this week, and films that you turn them off, you sit and have a think, you have a look on the internet, you come back and have a think again, you discuss it with people. So yeah, it's been that from that point of view, really nice.
Something happened to me the other day when I saw Deadpool/Wolverine and Wolverine, whatever the hell they're calling it. So something happened to me. I had an experience in the cinema. You may have experienced something like this as well, but I haven't had this in quite a long time. We're watching the movie. We're about a good hour and 45 minutes into it. We're heading to the big finale, the big action sequence. Our characters are literally driving down the road with a goddamn rocket launcher attacking the main base when the screen cuts out. The music keeps going, the dialogue keeps going, but the screen is blank. Nobody in the cinema reacts. I knew it instantly. I was like, oh, the projector's fucked. So I went all the way down towards the candy bar, and there was one kid, he must have been 17 years old at the most. And he's like, oh, hey. I'm like, yo, Cinema 6, dude, your projector's fucked. Hey, what? Really?
What's a projector?
Yeah, what's a projector? Who's a projectionist? The what? So I went back in the cinema, and everyone was just still sitting there, and they looked at me, and I was like, just went and talked to him. One guy was like, I thought it was part of the movie. Now,
to be fair,
Ryan Reynolds is famous for many a yuck, but maybe not this one.
Yeah, it wouldn't have surprised me if it had had that smug voiceover over.
Mark is a noted Ryan Reynolds disliker.
Probably as a bloke, he's all right. It's just his image now. Smugness is not something I can abide.
When was the last time you remember watching a movie in the cinema and something went awry?
Yeah, I was thinking, I know where it was. I know which cinema it was. I know it was when I went to see the Harry Potter and the Camping Trip, Deathly Hallows 1 in Germany. And now in Germany, they're very famously dub everything. So if you want to see the film in English, then you have to go to a special screening. And in my hometown, there was only one a week, and it was at 8 in the morning on a Sunday. So you've got all these sort of determined people getting up at 8 in the morning and going to sit in Sunday. And the first line, I don't know if you remember, but it's actually delivered by Bill Nighy, and he's doing that weird Welsh accent. The first line of the movie was in German, and everybody was screaming, falsch, das ist falsch, wir werden eine englische Movie. So I think somebody actually went out of the cinema and said, look, this is supposed to be in English. But yeah, there was an uproar because, as I said, that was the only chance that week and possibly ever to see that film in English. So yeah, people were outraged.
I had no idea that was the case in Germany.
Yeah, so if you go to Germany, anyone can go and look at any listings for any German cinema, and the only time you know if it's in the original language, because after the title have in brackets OV, original version. If you don't see that, you're going to be watching it with a German dub.
listeners the goods that we bring you. Look at that. Next time, I know you're planning a trip to Germany. You're like, man, I'm going to go watch the latest blah, 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 blah at this German cinema. Now you know to check for OV or not.
Outside of probably Berlin, 90, this is going back 10 or more years, but I think it's still the case. So like the person that dubs Robert De Niro is a very famous actor. The person that dubs Patrick Stewart, they will keep the same person, and that is the voice of that person. So a lot of my friends said we don't know what Robert De Niro actually sounds like.
I remember watching Alien Resurrection. The movie started, but the pre-show, for some reason, was Spice Girls 2 Become 1. That pop ditty. Yeah, right. So the movie started and 2 Become 1 continued. So it's, if you know your Alien Resurrection, the credits are all slimy, gloopy, conjoined twins. And someone screamed out, "You're playing the wrong fucking music."
Yeah.
And then
I watched it not long ago. In fact, maybe a week ago, Alien Resurrection. I'm still very, very creeped out by the baby alien with the human eyes at the end. Like, that is easily the most disturbing part of any of those films for me.
would it be more disturbing if they didn't digitally remove the penis that it had? The director, a noted Frenchman, he said, look, I'm French, but even for me, it was too much.
I would say I think Sigourney Weaver is absolutely fantastic in that, because it is a really strange and difficult part. Smashes it. I think she's brilliant in the film. I'd possibly say it's her best performance of the four, because it is almost impossible to make that version of Ripley work. The others are written well. It's all part of a very cohesive whole, but that performance must have been so difficult. Pathos, a bit of humor, cynicism, but you're still supposed to care for her. What a brilliant performance. And every time she's actually playing in the theatre in London, I just read today, I think in November, she's doing Shakespeare. So I might try and go to that.
Now, when you say the word brilliant, you're referring to the movie that we're talking about in this episode.
Absolutely, yeah.
Listeners, wow, what a doozy of a movie we have for you today. So much so that I never used the word doozy, and I just used it. This is a movie that has a zombie tiger, robot zombies, time loops, pregnant zombies, and Dave Bautista's head wrinkles. It's got all of these things, but still, it is an unredeemable pile of shit. We're talking about Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, available on Netflix, wherever you stream your Netflix. Now, the whole point of this podcast is to take average films or films that they're not terrible, they're not wonderful, they're perfectly average. And Mark and I, brazenly suggest ways, scenes, characters, changes that could have just, maybe popped the film a bit more, maybe pushed it up just a little bit more. For this film, Army of the Dead, I think we have our work cut out for us. How in Jesus's name, Mark, do we take this movie and make it better?
You pitched the whole concept to me as meh. Because there are a lot of people who talk about just flat out rubbish and shooting fish in a barrel. And so, most of the things we have talked about and will talk about are fairly redeemable. I cannot think of a reasonable way of making this work. I think I watched it the first time about 6 weeks ago, and I watched it again. I cannot see how this was allowed to happen, and I cannot see how anybody would have saved it. I mean, I know there are a lot of things saying, well, it's the auteur gone mad with power, but it wouldn't have mattered. Nobody could have made this work, not as it is or as it's trying to be. So no, if our goal is to make this redeemable, then we might as well just turn the podcast off now.
The basic summary of this movie is pretty simple. A bunch of, what would you call them, mercenaries? They have to descend upon zombie-infested Las Vegas. It's a heist movie, folks, but the movie sure as fuck won't tell you that, because it's got no elements of actually an enjoyable heist taking place. But they have to sneak into, which they don't, look... I can't even summarize this movie without snark, because it's just at every stage. Is it a heist movie? It would like to be, but it's not. Is it an action movie? It would like to be, but it's so goddamn dreary. It's not. Is it a horror movie? It would like to be, but it never leans into horror. Just buckle in, stick with us. And again, as always, we are two idiots. We will try to, suggest things that could be better, but we are no better ourselves. We're not pretending to be some amazing Hollywood screenwriters, because we're not, quite frankly. We have a podcast. That's why we have a podcast. So before we start tearing it down more than we already have, what actually works, in your opinion?
Okay, well, I'm a bit of a sucker, although it's been done badly so many times, I am losing interest. I'm a bit of a sucker in the prologue not seeming to have any connection to what we're about to witness. I should preface that by saying I despise the two characters that we have to watch driving down the road, and there's, they've just got married, and there's the...
The married characters. I thought you were talking about the chatty back and forth bantering army guys.
Generally, I quite like, or I have liked in the past. Well, this is very incongruous. I thought I was going to see, why are we watching these two? Who are these two? Should I be investing in those two? Well, probably not. I don't mind that as a conceit. I've seen it done relatively well before. It's always difficult to start a film like this, to be fair. You either go the 28 days later route, very stark, but this is trying to be a bit lighter, so I don't mind that as an idea. I think the characters are appallingly written, but I think that idea is okay. And then you've got Snyder's very well known for his montage, giving us the context, which we'll talk about, because he gives us a context which doesn't actually apply to his own film and shows us everything that probably we would have actually quite liked to have seen. So those two things as a way of starting this kind of film, I don't hate. Obviously, if you think of his Dawn of the Dead, which I don't like, but I do like I did like the first part of that film, the opening followed by the montage. I quite like that juxtaposition. I think it has been quite effective in the past for him and in general. So yeah, I'll say that. There you go.
You're being generous, because one of my first notes was, do we need the opening? This married couple, they get decimated, but you never see what happens to them. The movie's like, I'm done with them. Off they go. What does work is the practical explosion. So good to see an honest to goodness practical explosion. And look, one thing that we cannot take away from is Zack Snyder. He knows how to shoot. I know there was some controversy with the lens that he used, basically made everything in the background diffused. I think it looks gorgeous. It's a very romantic lens for a very unromantic movie.
You'd only need to see 1 second of it to know it's that film, a bit like the green hue in Matrix or whatever. I had big problems with it, actually, because I couldn't see any of the characters' faces. You're seeing Mr. Batista try and emote in the background, but you're really having to squint to try to see whether he just needs to go to the toilet or whether he's actually sad. See, the thing is, for me, I hate the army, full stop, but certainly the American army in films, I can't stand it. So if those two hadn't been there, then we'd have just had the army banter, and no, thank you.
The screenplay was co-written by Shay Haddon, Joby Harold, and Mr. Snyder himself. If you take out the opening and just open with the montage with the Viva Las Vegas, number one, you're injecting a jolt into the movie. You're injecting some humor into the movie, which is sorely needed. I mean, do we need to see where the zombies come from? Because we do.
Yeah, probably not.
We don't see where the zombie comes from, but we see basically, here's how Las Vegas falls to the zombie plague.
The montage gives it an energy. I deeply dislike that brand of quote unquote humor with the Elvis and all that. But anyway,
I'm not too sure if the screenplay actually had this written in it or not, but the montage is the only time in the movie where it strangely breaks the fourth wall. It has your lead characters standing against a photography studio kind of backdrop, holding a picture and looking sad. That is found nowhere else in the movie. Meanwhile, it's cut to scenes of zombie Elvis getting squashed or some penthouse schmuck getting ripped apart by some show ladies. So the movie has no idea what it's trying to tell you from the very, very get-go.
Yeah, I think we'll say this again and again with modern films, that I think we have said it already, is they're trying to catch everyone. So we'll have a bit of humor, we'll have a bit of horror, we'll have a bit of this and a bit of that. I don't know how much that montage cost. It didn't look very cheap to me. They spent an awful lot of money on something which does look spectacular, and it is memorable. As I say, it's got a kinetic energy, which the rest of the film definitely doesn't have. And
a listed production budget of $70 to $90 million, which is a hell of a lot of money, but to be fair, nowhere near as much as Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny.
No. So yeah, you watch that montage, and then, I was thinking, what would I expect the film to be like based on that? And again, I have read a few reviews, and, a few YouTube critics obviously went in on it. And I think one thing I saw, which is true, is that you come out of that montage and you've got this horde of zombies, and they're penned into Las Vegas, and there's the helicopter shot, and it pans back, and you're like, oh my God, they've got stakes here. How are we going to, which part of this world are we going to go into? And then come out of the montage, a bunch of bored looking characters. They're just sort of standing around looking at each other. And when they do actually get into that area, which we have seen is full of zombies, there's no one there. So all of that kinetic energy has just evaporated, and we're left with jaded, bored looking characters making up as they go along.
The opening sequence, in a way, is actually a good indicator for what you are going to get into, because the movie tries to have its cake and eat its too. All in that opening sequence, you've got this humor, you've got the action, you've got a bit of gore effects, jokey song, but then right at the end of the montage, it pulls a tearjerker moment out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I'm just going to crush this woman and the child. This faceless child, just going to crush them both. It's trying to get sympathy from you, but the problem is it doesn't get that because you're so uncomfortable, because you are presumably laughing just 20 seconds ago.
Yeah, hate it.
I am guilty of this myself with my own writing. Just I like to take a bit of here, a bit of here, a bit of here, but this movie needs to stay in its lane, for God's sake. All right, well, okay, fuck asking what works. Let's dive into what the first mistake the movie makes. Is it that montage? Would the movie be better with opening on Batista flipping some burgers?
I think you make a good point. I think one of the biggest problems at the beginning is it puts the audience in anticipation of something that is not going to happen with that opening and with that montage, and then it drains it all away. So if you took that away and started with Batista, at least you'd establish, as dreary and boring as the tone is, at least you'd establish the tone of the film. Right, this is what you're going to get. Maybe not invest in the character, but you would start with that engagement rather than the fancy pants explosions and so I think that's a reasonable point. If you're going to make the film that it ends up being, which shouldn't have been made, but if you are going to do that, starting with Batista maybe cooking and looking over at a little Polaroid of his daughter and
touches it gently, smears some burger grease on the photo. He's like, "Oh, I miss you, honey. God damn it, this triple whopper."
Yeah, the girl is she's a good actor. You know, she's very popular, isn't she? She's in
Ella Purnell is her name.
Yeah, so she is in Fallout. I like her. She's got a really good energy. Actually, very well cast. If that role had been written properly, I think she's well cast in it. There's a lot going on there. She can do quite a lot. So if you take away 5 or 6 of the peripheral characters, we could develop a relationship and a motivation between those two, which might have pulled on someone's heartstrings somewhere.
This film is stuffed with characters, most of them that you just... I'm going to introduce a segment here that we're going to play from time to time in the show, which is, what does Brad's mom think? When it came to the character of Dieter, played by, I'm going to butcher his name, Matthias Schweighofer. Is that how it was?
Schweighofer. Yeah.
There we go. Thank you very much for saving me there. She remarked, "Why isn't he dead yet? When will he die? Hurry up and die, you annoying piece of shit."
Did you tell her that he's got his own prequel movie?
I saved that for the very end once the credits had finished. I was like, by the way, now we've finished this, how about we add this to our watch list? Her response was, so wait a minute, you're going to take the most annoying character, he gets his own movies, there isn't any zombies, and the budget is lower. Fuck that.
Very brief aside, how did that prequel come about? Was that always going to come about? Or, I mean, it obviously wasn't by popular demand, I'm doubting.
Ah, yes, the Army of Thieves movie. I'm not too sure which came first, the chicken or the egg, but the Army of Thieves and Army of the Dead, and then there's the animated show. There's a bit of an animated thing as well. They're all connected, apparently. It's a connected
an animated
franchise. Yes, Army of the Dead Las Vegas. Jumping in here, giving you a bit of breathing room from the scintillating episode of Army of the Dead. Wait, scintillating, is that even the pronunciation? Oh my God, am I saying it wrong? Probably am. Anyway, if you are listening to this episode on the day of its release, then it's only 10 more days until Momo and Matsu, the director's cut, is released on Amazon in ebook, hardcover, or paperback on September 22nd, 2025! Just go to Amazon, whichever Amazon you use, type in Bradley Freeman, Momo and Matsu, and there it is! Or jump on my website, bradleyfreeman.net, and I can get you a signed paperback copy. If that's not good enough, if you're hankering for it right now, go on BookFunnel. Grab yourself an advanced reader copy for free. That's right, for free. Get an ebook straight to your ebook reader for free. But you better be quick, because as of September 22nd, That is gone, baby. So I was thinking, what could I do? And to be honest, this episode of Army of the Dead has kind of fried my brain. So I thought, if you'll allow me, I'm going to read the very, very first chapter of Momo and Matsu to you now. So here we are, the first chapter, or the first soupçon of Momo and Matsu, written by me, Bradley Freeman. Okay, here we go. Along a railroad track sped a train. It was operated by a guy most described as quiet and harmless, spoken of in a way that meant well but had the opposite effect. He wasn't the best at his job or a great many things, but on this day, things were fine enough. But fine is a placeholder, a holding station to drink janky instant coffee before things slip into great or bad, and on this day, bad was coming down the pike just as fast as the train. About 8,472 people would be affected, small to large. Most can be disregarded, those disobliged by delayed trains, meetings missed, and the families, friends, and co-workers that learned secondhand. 954 passengers riding the train would have direct contact. Around 30 in the front cabin, where it would be the worst, where things would be seen. Of those front cabin folk, only 2 would seek therapy. 122 people at Koenji Station, 61 on the platform itself, 29 at the epicenter, or as one member of the cleanup crew would call it, the blast zone. Of those individuals, 6 would be admitted to hospital. 4 would seek long-term leave from work. For 8,470 people, that was the end of it. 2 remain, the large in the small to large, responsible for the incident itself, the operator of the train and someone else. Their story continued. How was that? Was that like pulling teeth, or was it okay? I really hope it was okay. But anyway, Momo and Matsu, set in Tokyo, Japan. It's a tale of friendship, love, and trauma. All about an old man and a high school girl who just happens to be dead. Or is she? You see, that's the supernatural part of the tale. Available September 22nd, 2025. Pick up a copy, give it a read, and if it's not too much trouble, please leave a review on Amazon or Goodreads, social media. Indie authors, we need every single review we can get. I'm not joking, even though it seems as though most of this podcast, I am joking. But not about this. Momo and Matsu, the director's cut. Yay! All right, back to the show. Let us talk about why do you think they made the story choices they did? Let's take that and turn it into these characters. These wonderful, diverse, gotta say,
give them
lovely,
that.
wonderful, wonderfully diverse actors playing. How many characters are there? About 10, 12?
He thinks, well, I'm doing a heist, so you've got to have lots of characters in a heist. Yeah, if you're following.
I love it for a heist. It's the fucking largest amount of people ever to heist that have heisted before. I thought the whole point of a heist was to be covert, but this fucking idiot Batista's like, by the way, I'm bringing my daughter. And then this coyote is like, by the way, I'm bringing this fucking rapist asshole as well. Everyone have a great time in Vegas.
Yeah, and he's an interesting character. Well, he's not interesting, but you can see what they were trying to do. We'll bring him in. We'll kill him off. Everyone knows he's going to come back later, and everyone knows he's going to be reintroduced as a zombie. So he'll have, he's already primed to be that anyway. And you see that in things like Walking Dead quite a lot. So I can see why he might have thought that was a good idea. But the payoff to that is nothing. Absolutely nothing.
You're talking about the character of Bert Cummings, played by Theo Rossi. God, Theo Rossi is a great actor, but unfortunately, he keeps playing these asshole characters. And to be fair, he's great at it. God, he leans into this character and just has himself a beast. The first line he says is, I am a bad guy. I am creepy. I like women in that special way, herdy her.
If we're talking about which of these characters we would keep, I'd keep him, actually. I'd have him going a bit longer. I'd keep him. He is good. I mean, this has nothing to do with the writing, but I think the casting is good. Generally speaking.
I cannot fault any of the casting.
No,
in this.
no, it's not their fault. They're reading not very good dialogue, but I'd have kept him because he's very good presence on screen. Then you're setting up that dynamic, because actually the character that ends up betraying them, so hard to keep the characters in your mind. I think he's on with a cap. I remember that. He's got a cap.
All right, keep going. Try and guess his name. I have the IMDb up right here. Try and guess his name.
And I don't think I even wrote it down. I mean, I made some allusions to him in the notes. No, go on. You have to help me out.
Martin is his name.
Martin, that's his character's name?
Yes, played by Garrett Dillahunt.
Yeah, well, Martin. See, the thing is, you could combine Martin and the evil man. The evil.
Oh shit, that was my note actually. Yeah, just combine these two fucking
just
assholes.
Combine them. Yeah, and Martin is a very weak presence in the film, and in his turn, I can't think anyone would have cared, even though they've obviously seen it coming. Who would possibly care? Judging
by the fact that his death sequence is probably the best sequence in the movie, and they really the camera stays on his face getting chewed off. You know, they knew that they had a character that people wouldn't like,
but they also had a character people wouldn't remember. They I don't know why, as a screenwriter, why do we need two characters doing almost the same thing?
Well, because in fairness to the script, one is a complete fucking idiot who will throw away his job at any given moment
I know.
for the potential chance to kind of fluff up like a peacock in front of a woman, whereas the other one will throw away any kind of semblance of I am a good guy and constantly flaunt in front of the rest of the characters I will betray you, so much so that Tig Notaro clearly states we need to ice this fucker sooner rather than later.
Yeah. I mean, we know where it's the aliens.
You've got your Paul,
Paul Reiser,
your Carter Burke, yes.
Yeah. You know why it's there, but again, I think it's either one or the other. And the betrayal as well. So if we talk about, the Japanese businessman, so things obviously calmed down enough in Las Vegas that I'm guessing the whole reason for the plot, we'll come back to the characters in a minute, the whole reason for the plot is he just wants more money. But then later it turns out, well, he wants the head. Am I following this correctly?
No, look, seriously, this is one of my notes. I'll read this out loud. Tanaka is ostensibly wealthy, doesn't need to work a day in his life. He is extremely wealthy at the beginning of the movie, and he ends the movie extremely wealthy.
Yeah.
The whole point of his character is to be wealthier. And what? At the end of the movie, he doesn't get wealthier? That's his comeuppance? Really?
I don't know.
And then randomly in the scene where he says the team is in, there's the American military behind him. I guess that's to signify, yes, they did want the head.
They wanted the head, and they're going to do what with it?
They're going to weaponize it. But then didn't they already fucking weaponize it in the first place? That's how this whole shit pile began. The three leads of this movie are actually pretty decently terrific. Yeah. So we've got Scott Ward. Then we've got Ana de la Reguera playing Maria Cruz. She is also good. And then Omari Hardwick playing Vanderho. These three are decent characters, and they've all lost something. They've all been bitten by the hand of fate, but there is a familial kind of trust between them.
Yeah.
And there's no two ways about it. The problem with this movie is I would like to spend time with these three characters. I would like to know how they feel. I would like to see them scared. I would like to see them arguing. But this movie, between the zombie king and the goddamn tiger and Dieter, there's so many characters wrangling for screen time, so much so that some random mama goes into the fucking zone and she becomes the MacGuffin of which Scott Ward's daughter has to go in. There are too many flavors in this ice cream, and it's making me sick.
Yeah, why doesn't she? What does someone pointed out that Batista's daughter really cares for these children and they've lost their mother. So the first thing she thinks is, I'll go into a place where I'm probably going to die and I'll abandon them as well. There's no need for those characters at all.
Not to mention the fact that the daughter goes in with a fucking tank top, no wrist guards. She has the least amount of clothing out of anyone. And you'd think Batista, who is very protective of his daughter, would be like, yo, get her some fucking body armor because she is a walking snack. She will be bitten in a second. And turns out, spoilers, she suffers one bruise to her elbow. and that is the only damage she goes through.
But this brings up the inconsistency of how dangerous Vegas is, because the government are threatening to nuke them and bring it forward for a reason I'm not sure I caught. But anyway, they're nuking it because obviously you'd think, based on the montage, that it is incredibly dangerous. And quite frankly, how has it not got out of control? But on the other hand, when you get in there, most of the zombies are asleep. You've got a couple of randoms and a tiger who will stand on a car and growl at you and then bugger off. How threatening actually is it? Who knows what about what's actually going on in there? Because you've got I think she's German, the blonde expert who takes them in. She seems to know more about it than they don't seem to know anything about what's actually going on in there. Then you've got a shanty town, and I guess it's there because people are worried that they may be infected. Is that why?
I couldn't work that out either.
Yeah.
I guess that's a thing.
Yeah, and I think that doesn't help. Yeah, like I said, there's that sequence where the zombies are like, it's a bit like what they do with Cybermen in Doctor Who. Well, the Cybermen are just turned off at the moment and waiting for them to turn back on again. The lore, Lore, of the zombie, I think you said it in the last episode about like, are they dead? Are they not? The lore of the zombies is very confusing. Sometimes they seem to be very organized. Sometimes they seem to be, at the beck and call of the king and the queen or whatever is going on there. Other times they're mindless. It's very, very muddled.
Don't forget, other times they're fucking robots, and which is meant to be followed up with in a sequel, or it's meant to be.
Oh, is that right?
Well, he's never said, they've never said, but
right.
Look, if you're gonna dangle plot elements, or if you're gonna put shit in there, solve it in your own fucking movie.
Yeah.
Don't be like, oh, this robot zombie that you saw, you're gonna have to wait 4 or 5 years to find out what that meant, because A, no one gives a fuck, and B, that is lazy writing. Put that shit in that movie and dangle it in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where did these robot zombies come from? Why are they there? That's the shit you can have a sequel. But at least have fucking Batista, who apparently seems to be a great army commander guy, be like, yo, did that guy fucking spark or some shit like that? But no one responds to it. No one cares.
But yeah, anyway, so we've got to try and get through these characters. Dita, the annoying safecracker, German lady, I think she's German, maybe Russian, I don't know.
So Nora Arenzetter, yes, playing Lee, which is a character I thought was pretty cool. Every time I sat forward interested was basically when this character was talking. Because she knew the lore. So she was saying, she mentioned something great like, they're all dried up in the sun, of course, but if it rains. So I thought, well, you're putting that in the script. It's going to rain at some point. Like they're going to be running away, like go, 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 go. And then it fucking rains or something. To have a really cinematic sequence where like they all rise up from the rain. No, fuck that. But yeah, she seemed to say they'll be fine if we stick to the outsides. I thought I haven't seen this before. This is interesting. I'm invested. And then later on, her and fucking Martin go out, stare down the queen, and he fucks her up. And then she says, this wasn't part of the deal. Lady, he's right there in front of you, sawing her head off. I think there's a bit of time before that where you could address the situation. Does she not know about the king? Does no one know about the king?
I mean, I don't think I know about him. The stakes are very strange because all of these people are recruited you're saying these people are going to do it for money. And that's fine.
Yes.
It's just the heist element. But they are going into the most dangerous place in the world. And they're walking in with virtually nothing, not knowing anything about where they're going, but knowing there'll be a nuclear explosion in hours. Nobody at any point says, this doesn't seem like that much, considering there's a very, very strong likelihood I will be destroyed in a nuclear explosion.
I like the one random guy who came along with Guzman, who was like, yo, what, zombies? Fuck this, I'm out of here. And out he goes. That should have been a really good comedy beat.
Absolutely, yeah.
But instead it was like, yo, he's right.
Yeah, strange from a writing point of view to introduce a character who points out what everyone else is thinking. Because then the rest of us are like, yeah, exactly. Why don't we just follow him? Maybe the sequel will be about him. And you've got the YouTuber characters who you've just come back into my mind.
Guzman, yes.
The YouTube characters who, well, we know who they're for. They're for the kids in the audience who like YouTube, which is fine. I have no interest, but I can see why you might think it's a good idea to introduce characters like that. I personally think it's a terrible idea because we're supposed to also care about them. Was impossible, effectively. And they are the ones that react, like when the tiger appears and they both look at each other and say, awesome. They're basically looking at us and like, those reaction videos. Yes. So it's like they're reacting to the thing they're already in. It's like fourth wall breaking reaction to something. Isn't that awesome? Look, if you've got to do that in a film, you're in trouble, I think.
We're in trouble because we can't get these fucking characters. So we have the daughter, we have Kate Ward, we have Scott Ward, played by Dave Bautista, we have Ludwig Dieter, we've got Lily, we've got the Queen zombie, just named Queen. We've got Maria, who is Scott's best friend. We have the CGI replacement that is Tig Notaro taking over from Chris D'Elia because of scandalous reasons. Did you not know about this?
No, it's passed me by.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll quickly explain it. Basically, that whole character, the character of the helicopter person, was played by Chris D'Elia, a comedian out of LA. They shot everything. He was there on set. They shot everything. The movie was in post production, and then sexual assault or sexual harassment allegations came out against him, and pretty nasty stuff. So Zack Snyder's like, you know what? Boom, he's gone, and they shot Tig over a series of days against a green screen, and they digitally inserted her over all of Chris D'Elia's stuff. And watching the movie, it's amazing. Hats off to the filmmakers because there are no jarring shots. She looks as though she's there throughout the entire movie. And I would argue there's never enough Tig Notaro. Love her.
Well, you and
but
I,
I would,
but I would also argue over this.
Well, that's the thing. But I would also argue, I think she's an amazing comedian. I love listening to her, and she's great on Star Trek Discovery, but her dry, acidic line delivery does not suit this movie because this movie itself is dry and acidic. So it's just dropping into this pit of nothingness.
Yeah, I'm surprised they would go for such a big character, such a remarkable in the true sense of the word person, character, persona. She's the wrong, you put it well. She's the wrong spice in the melange, isn't she? She is. The thing is, but she's not in it enough. She doesn't, I was going to say, she doesn't unbalance it as though it was ever balanced in the first place. But I'd actually totally forgotten. I'd literally forgotten. And I've been checking my notes as we're speaking. I'd actually forgotten that character was in it. Right. Are we finished with characters yet? No.
We're finished with characters. Okay. We're finished with the characters. Let's move on to why isn't this as good as other A, heist movies, or B, zombie movies?
The stakes of one are very different for the stakes of the other. So you can't, a heist movie, there is jeopardy because they may get caught, they may go to prison, but that's about it. And in a zombie film, they're generally trying to get away. They don't want to be in that situation. So to say, right, you're running into that situation for this motivation, very weak motivation, the concept, the premise nobody watching this would think that premise matches or marries in any way. But for me, that's the central problem, that the conceit is ludicrous.
There's a reason why the head of Universal, when to bring up Fast and the Furious, he told Vin Diesel and crew, hey, for this fifth, make it a heist movie. Steer away from the boy racing, the street racing. Make it a heist movie. Because a heist movie comes with a set of kind of genre expectations, but also they're generally crowd pleasers. It's a genre unto itself. Hey, let's go watch a heist movie with these famous people. They're a dime a dozen, but you know what you're getting in for. And I would argue a heist movie, the conceit works for a zombie movie, for a vampire movie. In fact, I watched Abigail last night, which is all about stealing a girl and the kidnappers realizing, oh shit, we have a vampire on our hands. We are fucked. And that had a lot of black comedy going through it and was entirely effective. The jokes were flying, the gore was flying. It worked.
And I think it's what you said earlier. I think if the characters didn't know what was in there, so for example, if it had been kept a secret, if the scale had been a bit smaller, you hadn't have had millions of, but there's been something gone on and no one's quite sure what's gone on, then you can reasonably say, for a certain amount of money, if you know that the characters do need it, they might go in and take that risk based on an unknown. We discover that unknown with them. But by setting it up with that massive montage, it just makes it look ridiculous that anyone would ever go in there, especially as unprepared as they are.
But apparently, according to the movie, people have been going in there and they didn't give a percentage, but it seems as though some people come back out. So it's not it's not a terribly hostile place, but it is.
That's my problem. Is it
a fucking mom goes in there? Can you explain something to me? I need to ask a question. I got confused, which is nothing new. But this random mom character, she goes in there because she needs the money for her kids. Does she know about the fucking casino money, or is she talking about stealing, like ripping a sign off the wall and selling it on fucking, what money is she talking about?
I guess they just think, well, they're a bunch of casinos, so there's probably money lying around somewhere and I could maybe sneak in. I'm assuming, there's no explanation, but I'm assuming.
They turn up at the 3/4 mark and there's three of them, three women, two of which are dead meat walking because the movie doesn't care about them and they're gone.
Yeah.
So really, it's just Mom. Mom is in there and Batista's daughter is intent on getting her out.
If you say they were there when everything kicked off, like aliens, if you like, right?
Yes, of course, yes.
So you do that. The shantytown thing, again, I can't get my head around it. I don't know what it's about. And I know the TV does try and explain. The TV's doing a lot of the heavy lifting as far as the exposition's concerned.
But it's also not. Yo, if there were fucking zombies in this world,
I know
things would be different.
I know.
Conversations would be different.
It's bizarre.
But no one, like, if all of fucking Tokyo was taken over by zombies, it would be on our fucking social feed. We'd be talking about it. We'd be joking about it.
It really does come back, doesn't it? To what I think I said was something I quite liked, but the more I discuss it, is something shouldn't be there, is the montage, is the opening. They're going to nuke it. So that is a massive, massive problem. It's so inconsistent. The motivations of the characters is all over the place. So as you're watching it, you just cannot understand why anybody would be doing what they're doing.
Even Independence Day had the sense to cut to Jay Leno making a joke about aliens. The Miss Universe just got bigger. So that tells you the world has been affected by aliens fucking coming down. This movie, nah.
But in this film, who knows and how much do they know? It's just unclear. Yeah, I was thinking about a film like From Dusk Till Dawn, right? So you've got the first half is a crime caper, and then it makes this dramatic right turn. And that is a film I don't think it's dated very well. But the general structure, because you've got characters entering into a situation they don't understand. They think they understand it, but it turns out they're wrong. That works. And you could have it in this. It's there to be had. You know, and if you want to keep the rich businessman, I mean, I personally wouldn't, but if you did, then all right, he knows what they're going into, they don't. I think that really for me is the central issue. You can do it, but I don't think the characters, they could suspect, but I don't think for them to actually know what they're going into and there be this clear, either that has to go or something has to give.
Did you ever see Suicide Squad, the Will Smith version?
Yeah.
Notoriously cut up behind the scenes to be something that possibly it wasn't. But I remember reading a review. I think it was actually from Mark Bernardin, who's a writer / podcaster I adore. And he said, wouldn't it have been better if, because it's all about Amanda Waller, you know, Viola Davis, picking the worst of the worst, and in they go. And in this movie, they're sent into, I don't know, was it Detroit, Chicago? They're sent into a ruined American city to get something. And they're not told what the something is. They're just told to get in there. He said, wouldn't it have been amazing if they were told to get in there at all costs? And it turns out what they were getting was actually Amanda Waller.
Right.
She was stuck in there and she had corralled them all. She'd wrangled them all through like a hologram, whatever. And she needed to be evacuated immediately because she is Amanda Waller.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a great double turn? Whoa, you know? Yeah. That would have, And the same thing for this movie. Whatever is in that vault needs to rock every character.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, if one person was expecting money, there can't be money. If one person was expecting an easy score, it can't be easy. If one person was expecting not their daughter, has to be their daughter. There needs to be something to shock them, because by that point you've spent, and this movie is 2 hours and 28 minutes.
I know. I think that's almost the first thing I wrote on the notes, actually. 2.5 hours, red flag. That's what I wrote. Yeah.
Whoa. Yes. No. Halfway point in the movie, they come across the thing, and whatever the characters were before, cool, collected, smart-assy, self-assured, whatever, boom, they're all the opposite of that. And now someone has fucked up, or Tanaka has done Machiavellian bad guy things, and now the zombies are unleashed. Another issue with this movie that needs to be addressed, and this is a screenwriting issue, so we can actually, talk about it, is the dialogue. I call it dust dialogue. It kind of puffs in and puffs out. It has no weight. You don't remember any of it. There's no memorable quotes. There's nothing that lands. Any joke that is mentioned is either weirdly delivered by the actors or it just thuds. One line was, "One more step and I'll blow her head off." Well, ... more off. Oh, okay. There's your joke. Where's the rest of the jokes? Where have they been?
Yeah.
All the characters just say plot advancing things. Open the door. Go over here. Unlock this. What are you doing? Run. No one actually talks about. You've got Batista talking about his fucking food trucks, but he's talking about the food trucks. He's not talking about how he feels about it, his worries about it, his concerns. He's just talking about an object. And they're all just talking about objects. It's dust dialogue. Even more than the montage, I would say, is the most criminal aspect of this movie.
Yeah, I was just looking through the notes to see if there were any lines that I wrote down. I have not written down a single, I mean, even Skyscraper, I wrote down a few lines of dialogue. You know, I didn't think it was particularly funny, but I wrote them down. But yeah, no, absolutely. There's no, but then the thing is, Brad, I'm not surprised by that, because when was the last time you watched a film like this where the dialogue sang?
It's not hard. It's not hard. Christ, one character in this movie could have been the naughty one or the crazy one or just something.
I don't typically watch these kinds of films because there's nothing that sings to me at all. I cannot think. There are a couple of isolated examples, maybe in Fast and Furious. I'm not a big fan, but there are a couple of isolated examples in those movies, which is probably why they got so many sequels, to be honest, is because you do have quite zippy dialogue between quite good character actors.
When I've written a scene in my books where, you know, it is manipulative. So I'm like, okay, I want the audience to feel X, Y, Z in this scene. How do I do it?
Yeah.
Well, typically I just vomit all down on the page.
Yeah.
So this is what I want them to say in the scene. And later I'll read back and be like, wow, there's been no through line here. It's entirely unwarranted and it's not earned. So I'll try and lace that further back throughout the book or the screenplay, you know, and it's not so sudden and jarring. You know, there is a somewhat of a build-up to get to the point where hopefully it is moving. You can do that in many ways, from comedy to actual drama or whatever. But this movie, it doesn't do it. So it has that montage with that weird tearjerker. It has the ending where everyone is dead, but the daughter doesn't really seem to care about the people that she is responsible for killing.
She's killed them, yeah.
And then there's dad, and she's sad because only now does she realize she loved her dad. Well, even if it was moving, which it's not, even if it was, the movie then cuts to another character for 3.5 minutes as he, is on a plane enjoying champagne and realizes, oh no, I'm a zombie, in the most dull, oh shit, I'm a zombie way.
Incidentally, does the daughter go back and see those children? I can't remember. Does she reunite?
No. The last you see is her crying.
Yeah, but I thought that's why she went in there. That's the reason.
She's been given money from her now dead dad, who she has shot in the face because of a list of her poor actions. So I suppose in the end, she comes off like just swimming pretty because, hey, dad is dead. I've got his money.
I mean, how old is she supposed
to be? I guess.
About 18, 19? I don't know how old she's supposed to be.
Is she? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. And the kids, I don't think the kids have a line of dialogue either. So it's like, oh, those random kids I saw for like a 2-shot sequence. Yeah.
But that was her motivation, apparently. You know, again, and it comes down to motivations all over the place. Stakes are confusing and don't make sense to the motivation of the characters. And as I said to you earlier, everyone basically looks bored. That is a cardinal sin for people you're watching looking bored in a action. I mean, that is unforgivable. We haven't really talked about the background of, you know, how this film's got made and the weird brief cult of Zack Snyder, and he's gone on to produce the films I also haven't seen, the Rebel Moon. I don't know how many episodes there are going to be in this Rebel Moon thing, and the amount of money they've thrown at him. I think it's coming to an end, the Zack Snyder cult, as I would say, possibly. But obviously, a film like this, well, I say obviously, it's highly unlikely a film like this would have got made in the traditional way, with the traditional producer, executive producer. He obviously did have a lot of control to do what he wanted. There weren't a lot of people involved trying to stop him.
Well, originally it was set up at Warner Brothers, but they were strict on their plans for the feature film. There was a budget issue, a budget fracas as a result. And so Netflix, in their wisdom, were like, yeah, here's all the money. You have creative freedom.
That seems to be changing slightly now. It's quite interesting. I was listening to someone talk about how they seem to be moving back away from this, backing away from the model that they can see isn't really working.
I love the quote here on Wikipedia. Snyder recalled a meeting where he spoke about several screenplays he was working on, and after mentioning Army of the Dead, Netflix head of original films Scott Stuber told him, "Go write that movie. Let's make it. Go write it tomorrow, and we'll shoot it in a week."
I saw a very brief clip of an interview with him, and he was describing the bit where they go into the warehouse to discuss the heist. And Snyder said, yeah, we had to have this scene because these kinds of films have these scenes. And that's his commitment. He's not interested in it, but he knows it has to be there. So he just knocks it out, films it in 5 seconds, smears the Vaseline on the lens, does it, move on. And there are a lot of scenes like that where maybe he liked the idea of the premise, as you've just said, the elevator pitch, is not interested in doing the work to make it make sense and does not have enough people going, yeah, hang on a minute, why are they going in there? And just doesn't bother. And in this case, had enough power, enough clout to not even worry about the things you're struggling with as a writer in your little log cabin. Like, oh, but does that make you're agonizing over where? No, I don't think he does any of that.
I love the bit where, okay, so the bomb is moved forward. Okay, the bomb is going to drop even sooner. We got to go. Shit. Meanwhile, Scott Ward's best friend / love interest, Maria, turns to him and says, let's talk about a relationship. Yeah. And they have a 2-minute conversation in a fucking hallway about their relationship. Meanwhile, a rocket is heading straight for your dumb.
Yeah, I made a lot of notes about that. And they don't even seem concerned about a nuclear bomb. No one shows any kind of panic or a bit of giddy up to get stuff. No one. And it just for a few grand. It's not like for most of them, it's not even, it's bill money. Yep. And so,
it's bill money. Yeah, that's the real title of the movie. Bill money. The director's cut.
Again, we are trying to figure out a way to... Okay, right. I'll go... You really are the one that's going to have to do this, but to make it work... Oh, shit. So I'm saying to make it work, keep the 3 core characters, write the daughter better, but have her as the thing Batista cares about and is prepared to endanger himself in order to save. I don't mind that as a central premise. I mean, there's a lot to cut, but what would you cut to try and make it work? I kind of think you shouldn't even have the heist element, which then makes the whole point of the film disappear. But how would you make that work?
I would have the heist element, and but I would remove the daughter. Only have 3 characters. Or maybe if you want to add, you've got a horror movie scene, you need some people to die. So maybe you have some dead meters. Maybe Tanaka sends some of his army guys. I would have the reason be, you said it before, there's someone that needs to be saved before the bomb goes off. And that would be, shock of all shocks, it's his daughter. And he wouldn't know that until he sees her. You've got that personal connection. You've got a reduced cast. You've got more tension because the fewer amount of people. Look, I've done this myself. I've written a book called Yokai, which is my version of a disaster movie mixed with a horror movie. So you've got your core cast of 8 or so people. You've got your monsters. And throughout the book, I pick them off one by one. Well, speaking of budget and clout, we have the budget and clout to wrap up this podcast because I firmly believe anyone still listening must be exhausted with the amount of ragging that we've done on this movie. Now, look, again, we are not professional filmmakers. We do not have a $70 million budget. You could easily listen to everything we've said and be like, those snarky, jealous assholes, which is fair enough. But it is what it is. And that movie certainly is something.
Yeah. Thanks for making me watch it.
You can find us on Instagram at WrittenOffPod. Jump on there, throw us a comment, maybe suggest another movie we could talk about. Although after what we just talked about, we need a break. We need to put on some quality cinema for a change. Next episode, what happened was we started recording with the intention of talking about a specific film, but we got sidetracked and talked about a different movie entirely. So what we're going to do is we're releasing that as a mini episode, and that movie is Alien Romulus. Yep. we recorded the episode pretty much right after both of us had been to the cinema to see the movie, so our opinions are pretty fresh. But then a little while later, I was in Japan on vacation and I saw the movie again. My updated opinions are there at the end. So even though it's a shorter episode than what we would normally do, you still get a lot of Alien Romulus for your non-existent podcast bucks. Yeah, that's a thing. You can find me on Instagram and Threads at Brad is Writing, and you cannot find Mark because he fucking hates social media, and I never get tired of saying that. We'll see you on our next episode talking about something probably markedly better.
I'm not sure.
It's your job to be Debbie Downer, and it's my job to be Holly Happy. Yeah, that works. We'll put that on a t-shirt. Fucking roll with that. Yeah.
Good.
Oh, I guarantee in the future we'll be doing a live show and you will have a Debbie Downer t-shirt and I will have a Happy Holly Speedo. And it will be everything you've ever wanted.
Right then. Thanks very much, Brad. The metaphorical car is started. So thank you very much for your time.
Stay safe, grab a slice, and we'll catch you for our next episode. Bye. Written Off is hosted by me, Bradley Freeman, and Mark Tasker. It's produced by the both of us, and it's edited by me. Our theme music is by Skane, and our artwork is by Sketchfro. This has been a Pugnacious Podcast production.